Welcome back, everyone. Today, we continue our journey through Annu Pandey's powerful second book, Keeping Faith Alive, as we dive into Chapter 9, Inner Conflict and Awakening. In this episode, we explore what happens when a person begins to question the beliefs, teachings, or systems they once trusted completely. We'll be unpacking the emotional confusion, the psychological tension known as cognitive dissonance, and the inner struggle that comes with trying to reconcile personal experiences with deeply held beliefs. We'll also discuss why people often justify harmful behavior, how awakening can feel both liberating and terrifying, and why confusion is not a sign of weakness, but often the beginning of clarity and growth. This is a deep and honest conversation about questioning, healing, and reclaiming your voice and power. Let's begin. How are you, Anu?
I'm good, Siddharth. How are you?
I'm awesome. It's always good to have you on. And to get the ball rolling with you, Anu, why do people experiencing spiritual abuse often struggle to name what they are feeling, even when something internally feels wrong?
So, Siddharth, this is one of the most common experiences that survivors have if you talk to them. I felt that something was wrong, but I could not articulate it at that time. Here's why. In toxic faith communities, spiritual abuse is always reframed as something which is spiritual, as spirituality. It is redefined as spirituality. You were taught over and over subtly that if you are experiencing any kind of discomfort, it's because it's your ego.
Hmm.
So you see how it's reframed. Your discomfort is reframed as your ego. Your pain, if you're experiencing any pain, it's because you're going through purification. This pain will purify you. If you are afraid of something, if you're experiencing fear, it's because you lack surrender. Maybe if you surrender more, this fear will go away. You won't be afraid anymore. If you have any confusion, it's your spiritual maturity. If you dedicate yourself more, if you do it in the right way, then you will become more spiritually mature over time, like other people around you are, and then this confusion will go away. So you see, words are gradually taken from you and something else is handed over to you. So the body is literally it's signaling the danger. Inside your body, you're feeling that something is off, something is wrong. But the belief system, the toxic belief system, it reframes it as your moral failure. So the subtle manipulation that's going on, you start to see it as normal. Any coercion that you're experiencing, it becomes obedience. You feel that I am just obeying, and this is how it is supposed to be. Any emotional exploitation that you experience or you see it happening in other people, it is seen, it is reframed as love and correction. So over time, you lose your internal compass because you lose your vocabulary. Because lose language control is equal to perception control. When your language is controlled, what language will you use? What words, what vocabulary you will use to define what's going around you? If it is controlled by someone, no, don't use this word, use this word. So your intuition over time, your your intuition becomes rebellion, your boundaries become your pride, and your needs become selfishness. So you are experiencing things, you can experience, you can feel them, you can acknowledge them, and but when you try to give a word to it while conversating with any second person, you are subtly gradually manipulated or gaslighted into using the words that are preferred by your that toxic faith system, not what it is actually. You cannot say it as it is. So over the time, you start to doubt your own perception of reality, and instead of straight away putting things into the word that come to your mind spontaneously, you use the words that are suggested to you. So your language is controlled, your language is controlled, and then your perception is controlled by controlling your perception. First they control your language, so it affects your perception. And after a long time of gaslighting, you
Hmm.
yourself start to use those words. So
Hmm.
actually this control gets internalized. So people don't have the words because the system steals the language for them from them. They steal the ability to define their own experiences. So instead of using your own intelligence, your own analysis, the normal vocabulary that you carried all your life to define what is happening around you, you start to use the vocabulary that is imposed upon you, that is coerced upon you. And the changes happen, though it's coming from the outside, but over the time it starts to feel like it's something that is happening internally, because I am growing spiritually, so I am trying to understand it, all these events and experiences, in the way that I'm supposed to. So it feels like it's internal, and gradually this whole process of manipulation, it replaces your vocabulary. So that.
Oh, Anu, can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now, I can watch you.
Oh,
So
yeah, sorry about that. All right, now there's a comment question here for you here. This is from Resh Chitan. Hi, Anu. Being a high believer to being confused on the same agenda, how does one migrate?
mm, it causes when someone is highly believing in something and then they get confused about the same thing. So there is a point in life when you have two contradicting beliefs or values or thoughts or meaning about the same thing. And it creates a lot of psychological tension inside you, because you have two contradictory beliefs. You're carrying both of them and you don't know which one is true. Now, this is in psychology just called as cognitive dissonance. And when someone goes through cognitive dissonance, they do something so that they can get relieved of that psychological tension that they're going through. And there are different ways to deal with that. Sometimes, let's say I have two contradicting beliefs, like let's say, um, I must obey all the elders. I must always respect and obey all the elders. But at the same time, confusion arises when I see an elder doing something that's wrong, that's morally or legally wrong. Now, I must obey all the elders, but some elders can be dangerous or toxic. So I must keep myself away from them and I must not obey. Now, what do I do with these two coexisting beliefs? One of this belief I had been carrying since childhood, and I now suddenly I experienced or witnessed something that gave me another belief. I'm carrying two of them. So it will create a lot of cognitive dissonance inside me. And I would try to relieve that dissonance by agreeing with one of these. Either I will agree with my previous belief and I will not have boundaries with this toxic dangerous person. I will allow them to exploit me, manipulate me, or harm me, or I would leave the previous belief and go with this one. Or I might come to a conclusion that both of these beliefs can be carried. And there can be a fourth scenario as well. If you are in a very controlled environment where you do not have a say, and also you are confused, and also you are subtly coerced into doing everything that is asked of you. So you do not have a say, and you don't even know if you have a say or not. So you might go through dissociation. That is a severe psychological situation where you are carrying both the beliefs together, but you are not feeling any of that. So your faith remains intact, but you're also able to separate the pain that is being caused to you because of that cognitive dissonance from your conscious self. You go numb, you dissociate. It's like it's a feeling like this feeling of overwhelm is too much because I have two beliefs which are opposite to each other and I don't know which one to choose, so I'm just stepping out of myself. Dissociation means stepping out of yourself, not feeling anything that is happening to you. So getting out of your getting detached from your consciousness. It's like watching yourself from another dimension and watching it like a movie. You are in that situation and everything is happening, but you're not feeling anything. So dissociation is the extreme form that might happen. But there are healthier ways also, that you can choose one of the belief that is healthier for you and leave the another one.
Awesome. How does cognitive dissonance develop when a person's experience begin to conflict with the beliefs or teachings they once trusted?
Yeah, that's what we had been talking about from while answering Jitin Rishika's answer.
Oh,
So
okay. All
before
right.
we,
Okay.
no
Uh-huh.
problem, we can go talk a little bit more about it in spiritual
Okay.
context. So
All right.
when someone is carrying two simultaneously two contradicting beliefs, values,
Mhm.
attitudes, or we are acting in a way that contradicts our beliefs, a psychological distress is experienced. That's the psychological definition of cognitive dissonance. In spiritual context, a cognitive dissonance happens when a quiet internal split happens, a fracture between who you are and who you were told to be in your toxic faith community. So when someone's lived experience contradicts with their belief system, so many people, it's, as I said, it's not just simple confusion. They might enter a form of self protective dissociation, as I said. Either you might agree with one of them, you might also get dissociated. So in spiritual context, when the tension is unbearable, the mind creates emotional distance just to survive. So your belief system, your belief structure is also protected, and you can also stay away from the pain that is being caused to you because of that dissonance. So a psychological self-splitting is created by the system that punishes independent thought. So it's actually, this dissonance is actually created by the system, because they won't let you be autonomous, they won't let you allow you to have your independent thoughts safely. But at the same time, your own conscious, your own moral values do not allow you to agree with something that you clearly think is not right, that your gut feelings, your intuition clearly say that it's not the right thing that is happening. So it's the system and your conscious, they together create the dissonance and the dissociation, and that's how some people survive. You would come across a lot of people from toxic faith communities who don't feel anything, who just become observer in other people's stories, in their own stories, and they might feel like, oh, maybe I have become spiritually elevated and that's why I'm so detached. This is not detachment. Detachment is when you have empathy, when you have compassion, when you have wisdom, when you have your moral compass working right. A lot of people confuse this psychological dissociation occurring from cognitive dissonance. They misunderstand it as detachment, and it could be a very dangerous situation where you are not in touch with your own emotions, and your own moral compass is not working, and especially if you are holding authority position, it could be a very dangerous situation for yourself, for the people who follow you, and the group that you belong to. You think you have you've elevated to a spiritual level, and because of that you are feeling detached, but actually the truth is, in your subconscious you are too afraid of the simultaneous existence of the values and beliefs that are contradicting with each other, and you're not wise enough or you're not brave enough to acknowledge them and decide which one you want to follow or preach. So you dissociate. Your psyche makes you dissociate from yourself, and you become numb. You don't feel anything, and you think that you're elevated. So it can be very dangerous situation. If someone is watching this and you are going through this, you need to explore your own psyche to understand what is actually happening to make you dissociate or make you numb or detached from these things. Is it real detachment, spiritual detachment that happens after spiritual elevation, or is it just your psychological dissociation happening because of the cognitive dissonance that your psyche could not bear?
Why do individuals often justify, minimize, or reinterpret harmful behavior in spiritual environments instead of immediately recognizing it as abuse?
So, in spiritual environments, first of all, mostly the harm is not very direct, it's mostly subtle, and it's mostly happening because of something that you yourself are also consciously involved into enabling it. And most importantly, in toxic communities, in toxic harmful environment, people minimize abusive behavior because the harm is wrapped in sacred meaning. Anything harmful that you see, anything that you point out as harmful, it will be reframed into something sacred, something spiritual, something that is for your own good, something that is beneficial to you. So things like this are said, and this is for your purification. This correction is love. Your resistance is your ego, as I said in the first response. Your pain is for your purification. If you have any questions, this is trust of your faith. So the abuse gets morally reframed into something holy. It's always reframed as something holy. It's the spiritual gaslighting. So the victims learn to reinterpret cruelty as spiritual care, or worse, as their own spiritual failure. And this isn't just naive loyalty, it's survival inside a system where questioning harm is taught to be sinful, rebellious, or spiritually dangerous. So they are trapped inside a sanctified gaslighting, where abuse is presented as virtue. If, see, two things are happening basically here. If something, if you are experiencing something painful, discomfort, uncomfortable, if something is disturbing you, it's somehow you are lacking at something. Your
Mm.
spirituality, your um, commitment, your moral values, anything. So somehow it's your failure. And if you are able to point out a behavior in someone else who is causing those problems to you, then they are holy. They are always holy. So this is how they try to create a balance and try to create peace. And I'm not saying that everyone does that intentionally.
Mm.
Some people, some preachers and leaders and authority figures truly believe that by doing so they are trying to create a balance, they are trying to keep a peace. But if you are in a situation like that, you ask yourself whose peace they are keeping. If they are keeping only abusers' peace, then it's not peace and it's not safe for you. When we say we must keep peace and we must work towards harmony and cohesion in a group, it should be serving everyone, not only the perpetrator. In any family, in any group, in any community, if the authority figures, parents or leaders are working towards the peace of only the perpetrator, it's not actually peace. They are avoiding accountability. They're trying to avoid their work, the role that they need to play into actually bringing the peace that serves anyone. A situation where the perpetrator is getting their peace, but the victim is getting more and more exploited and harmed and damaged, then it's not peace. And you must not stay in environments like that, whether it's family, a community, or anything. So, this is how the justification is done. If it's you are experiencing anything painful, it's your failing. If you're pointing it out onto anyone, the group or the system or the structure or the rules or the authority figures or leader or person, it's something holy that is happening that you may not be understanding at this moment because you may not be that much spiritually elevated. So that is how the spiritual gaslighting happens.
Interesting. What emotional and psychological challenges arise when someone starts questioning long-held beliefs, leaders, or systems they once fully trusted?
Although this stage comes after a lot of struggle, and even before someone leaves them, leaving is the last thing that happens, but before that, this stage comes where people start to finally question. They are finally trying to come out of the gaslighting that was happening to them, and that gaslighting created those internal critics that were controlling them from the inside, the cage that was forged inside their mind. They try to question that cage. So the pain that follows, the first thing that follows isn't freedom. People might think that when you realize that abuse happened to you, the first thing that will happen will be freedom or some sort of empowerment. No. The first thing that happens when you realize that you were emotionally, psychologically, spiritually abused was the first feeling is always pain and grief. Because this pain, and this pain isn't just emotional, it's existential. Because in high control groups, the moment you enter a group, you lose your individuality from the day one. You start to become part of the group. You start to forget who you were, what your values were, what your goals were, what your purpose of life was, and you start to um, adopt, embrace the purpose of the group, the values of the group, the identity of the group, and you start to work as a unit of the group instead of being an individual yourself. And in high control environments, individuality, autonomy are always suppressed. So when someone gives everything they have, their values, their identity, their purpose of life, you attach everything that you have, even your own self, your own soul, with your group. But one day you realize that this group is harmful for you and you want to leave it. So when you ask these questions yourself, is it really safe for me? Should I really stay? And all the promises that were made to me and all the illusions that I had, if all this is true, and so it's like they're not just asking this if this leader is wrong, is this group is wrong. The question that come first are like, what does this mean about my identity, my purpose, my moral compass, my entire worldview? Because when you are a part of a group, whether it's healthy or unhealthy, it definitely influences your worldview, your view of yourself, your view of different ideas, philosophies, society, issues, global issues, and everything. And when you try to attach yourself from that groups, you suddenly feel like a shell of yourself. And the psychological changes that occur, they are: number one, grieving a god or faith that once felt safe. There was definitely a time, whether your community was healthy, unhealthy, it was cultic or whatever, everyone in their spiritual community, at least once, there comes a time, especially during the initial idealization phase, that you develop a lot of faith towards the whichever god they are following, whatever faith system it is, and your group and everything. So suddenly when you feel like you are questioning everything about this group, you start to grieve the god, the faith that once felt safe and now it's not feeling safe. Second thing that happens is you feel unanchored without the belief system that shaped your life. At one point, that belief system was everything. It was like your anchor. But the moment you start questioning, you suddenly feel unanchored because this was everything. That this is holding me, and now suddenly it's nothing. It's nothing for me because I'm now questioning it. Third one is losing community, belonging, and identity at the same time. I said the identity, you already don't have any identity because it got fused with the groups and now you're leaving the group, so you do not have any identity. But you also lose your community, your belonging, because in high control spiritual groups, outside world is dangerous, impure, on the wrong path. So even if you're thinking about leaving it, suddenly you are going to become an outsider, and you already know how an outsider is seen by the group members. So even the well-meaning people, even the people who are good to you, who are your close friends, they are going to lose you. You know that. So this thought also gives you a fear. Everybody is going to lose me now. I'm going to lose this community, whatever belongings, friendships, support I had, connections I had in this group. I'm going to lose all of them. So this fear is also one of the psychological changes. Then mourning the version of yourself who believed everything wholeheartedly. Definitely there would have been time when you blindly wholeheartedly accepted, embraced everything, and believed in everything. Now you're mourning the version of that yourself. Wow. At one point, I myself believed everything wholeheartedly. I committed myself and I was so dedicated that all of this was purpose of my life. And now you'll mourn that part of yourself. And it's a spiritual bereavement, the death of a meaning system. And like all grief, it has also different stages. Any form of grief has different stages. This grief that you experience when you start to question your belief system, it also has the same stages of anger, sadness, confusion, and fear. And if you're going through this, I would say that it isn't weakness. It's the natural emotional earthquake. When a belief system collapses, you're definitely going to go through these stages, but the recovery from these stages with the right support is possible.
What does it truly mean to claim your power during a spiritual awakening or the deconstruction process, and why can it feel both freeing and frightening?
um, Reclaiming yourself means taking back the ownership of your inner world. We say taking back ownership of inner world, it means taking back ownership of your intuitions, your choices, your relationship with divine, with God, and your right to exist without permission, like you did before becoming a part of this harmful environment. But the reclaiming that hits the nervous system in a big way is for the first time people realize that relying on external authority, not relying on external authority and existing without that is possible. And you learn to rely on yourself. And so the nervous system shifts from obedience to autonomy. You don't need to obey all the time, to seek permission and validation all the time. You can be autonomous. You're allowed to be autonomous. Your fear driven behaviors changes to self trust. You learn to trust yourself, and external validation to inner knowledge. This feels incredibly freeing, but also it's not that the moment you claim yourself, it suddenly happens and then it keeps on going. That it is always alternated with fear. It's because in that harmful environment, you were conditioned to fear yourself if you act this way, so that you continue to be committed and never act this way. But now you are acting this way, so obviously you are feeling free because you are acting in a healthy way, but the fear will always be there parallelly. In one moment you will feel empowered because you're making a choice, but in the next moment you will be suddenly afraid. Oh, but making choices is sinful. You won't be seeking your authority's permission or validation, so you feel, wow, I'm so relaxed. I don't need to worry about keeping managing their mood all the time. But the next moment you'll be afraid, because isn't it sinful to not manage your leader's mood all the time? So it's also terrifying because the system taught you that independence equals danger, ego, rebellion, or punishment. So your freedom activates your old pathways, and your expansion triggers old conditioning. So claiming your power is both liberating, also rewiring. It's like stepping in a life where your voice is enough, your intuition is valid, and your existence is no longer controlled. But as I said, it feels freeing as well as frightening, because you have been conditioned over the years that this kind of behavior that you're showing now, feeling free, doing things that are making you feel free, they are all sinful, and they are all causing you damage in your harming your social life in some ways. So I have seen people who are got separated from the harmful environments, and they are acting. Even it happens in the case of domestic abuse survivors, children who were raised by toxic parents, they also experience same kind of emotions. They, when they get free from them, then when they finally learn that that environment was harmful and now I'm allowed to live my life on my own terms, they do so. But they're always having alternate thoughts of what if I'm wrong, what if it's
Mm.
sinful, what if I'm being a bad child or a bad wife or a bad follower, what if I'm causing harm to my own spiritual life, what if I'm morally fallen, that's why I'm doing this. You carry this cognitive dissonance for a long time. So this is the reason why it feels frightening, because of the years of conditioning with your abusive authorities or parents or your partners. You have learned that if I think for myself, if I trust in myself, something is wrong going to happen. It could be dangerous to trust in yourself, believe in yourself, or live the life that is safe for you. Even sometimes I come across survivors who are clearly taking a step that is highly required for their safety in that moment, but they are so scared and they are so unsure of themselves because they have always been taught that abandoning yourself is the only way. If you are thinking about yourself, it's wrong. It's not, you're doing injustice to someone. So that's why it feels frightening also.
Lastly, why is confusion such a natural and important part of healing and awakening, rather than something people should fear or avoid?
When confusion arises in someone, it gives you an insight in your own psyche. Confusion means, again, as I say, you have confusion about which thing to follow, which is right and which is wrong. It gives you a message about how you see things around you, how you perceive things around you, why according to you something was right at some point and something is not, or why at some point you did not accept something and you're accepting it now. It tells you about the unconscious or the conscious choices that you're making. A lot of time we are not aware why we are making a certain choice. As I say all the time, that our subconscious beliefs uh, um, um, affect how we make choices in any situations. And if we do not um, try to understand them, what was the belief that made me make a so and so choice, whether it's helpful or harmful or whatever. If we do not if we never pause and look back at the beliefs or the triggers that we are carrying from the trauma that we have experienced in the past, if we do not pay attention to them, we are going to always make choices in our conscious life that will be controlled by them, and it is not very fair, not fair to you and not fair to the people around you. So you must know why you are doing what you are doing. It gives you an opportunity to make moral conscious choices that are healthy for you and for people around you.
All I gotta say is thanks so much for your time, Anu, and I'll check you again for the next one.
Thank you so much, Siddharth, for having me here.
You're most welcome.